Today, we uncover the shocking truth about UK bread. Did you know that just a couple years ago, Hovis recalled thousands of loaves due to metal contamination? And that's just what we know about. One person left a popular brand in their bread bin for 2 weeks while on holiday. When they returned, there wasn't a single spot of mold. No deterioration, nothing. That's not bread. 55% of UK bread contains glyphosate, a weed killer sprayed on crops before harvest to speed up drying. Some loaves contain L-cysteine, an amino acid derived from duck feathers or human hair, used to condition the dough. Calcium sulfate, essentially Plaster of Paris, is added as a dough conditioner, and those freshly baked loaves in your supermarket bakery, many have been frozen for up to 2 years, then simply reheated in store. Real bread has 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt and yeast. The average UK supermarket loaf contains 15 or more. 80 to 98% of UK bread is made using the Chorleywood process, which turns flour into finished loaves in under 3 hours, instead of the traditional 12 to 16. This isn't baking, it's industrial chemistry. So we've gone through the major brands currently sold in UK supermarkets and will expose the 11 bread products you absolutely need to avoid. Then I'll tell you the handful that are actually still worth buying. But first, if you care about what's going into your body and your family's bodies, hit that hype button right now. This video needs to reach as many people as possible because the only way we push back against these corporations is by spreading awareness. When enough people know what's really in their food, companies are forced to change. Your hype helps make that happen. So click it now and let's hold them accountable. And let's get into it. Number 11. Hovis. Let's face it, nostalgia sells. That famous advert with the bike and the hill. The idea of wholesome British heritage, brown bread that looks healthy because it's brown. But flip the bag over and the story collapses. Hovis uses caramel colouring in many of their loaves. Not caramel as in melted sugar, but chemically produced colouring created through high heat processing. This process forms compounds that have been linked to health concerns in animal studies. One slice won't harm you, but you're not eating one slice. You're eating this daily for years. That accumulation matters. Then there's the palm oil. Stripped of nutrition, added purely as a cheap industrial fat. Hovis also plays the branding trick beautifully. They call products wholemeal, add some seeds for appearance, while the ingredient list reads like a laboratory inventory. Their soft white range includes vegetable oils, emulsifiers, preservatives, flour treatment agents, and soya flour. That soya isn't added for health benefits, it's added because it's cheaper and speeds up rising. Unless it's specified as organic, that soya is almost certainly genetically modified. Here's what most people don't realize. Hovis mills wheat into white flour, strips out the bran and germ, then adds some of it back later. To legally call it wholemeal. Real wholemeal bread is never separated in the first place. Once you break apart and recombine grain, you destroy much of its natural structure and nutritional value. You weren't sold food, you were sold a story. And in August 2024, Hovis had to recall loaves due to metal contamination. That should tell you everything about their quality control. Number 10. Kingsmill. They love the word great. Great taste, great every day. Great white, great for who? Their white bread has a glycemic index around 75, which is higher than table sugar. That means rapid blood sugar spikes, insulin surges, crashes, hunger, and cravings within an hour or two. Then there's Kingsmill 50/50, marketed as a healthier option because it contains some wholemeal flour. But it also contains glucose-fructose syrup, a sweetener that's been linked to fatty liver disease and metabolic dysfunction. Bread doesn't need sugar, it needs time. Sugar is added to condition your brain to crave it again. Their tasty wholemeal range lists sugar as one of the top ingredients. That's not bread, that's cake wearing a sandwich costume. Eat this for breakfast, and here's what happens. By mid-morning, your blood sugar has crashed. You're tired, unfocused, reaching for coffee or snacks to get through. This is by design. Kingsmill also uses rapeseed oil, a highly processed industrial oil that can contain naturally occurring trans fats from the processing itself. Trans fats raise bad cholesterol, lower good cholesterol, and increase heart disease risk, all while remaining technically legal. And remember, Kingsmill is owned by Associated British Foods, the same conglomerate that owns Primark. Profit optimization is their expertise. Your health isn't. Number 9. Aldi Village Bakery. Aldi changed UK shopping by making decent food affordable. But this is where corners were cut too far. Although the seed loaves look healthy with their coating of sunflower and pumpkin seeds on top, but underneath that cosmetic garnish is a white flour base with the same industrial processing as everything else. Aldi's confirmed that their bread contains fermented wheat flour, which generates propionic acid during fermentation. This is a legal loophole. The propionic acid acts as a preservative, but because it occurred naturally during fermentation rather than being added directly, they don't have to list it as an E number. It's the same preservative, just hidden. Centralized factories churn out hundreds of thousands of these loaves in under 3 hours. And let's face it, we all know how much supermarkets end up wasting. Real bread physically cannot be made that quickly. Then there's calcium sulfate, which is essentially plaster, used as a dough conditioner and fortifier. This isn't German bread quality. It's German industrial efficiency applied to the cheapest possible ingredients. Aldi also admitted that fermented wheat flour is used specifically for mold inhibition, according to their own statements. The Federation of Bakers has openly acknowledged this practice industry-wide. They're not even hiding it anymore. Number 8. Tesco own brand. Tesco built its reputation on trust, but when you look closely at Tesco's own brand bread, that trust starts to unravel. Most Tesco loaves are made using accelerated industrial processes designed to replace time with chemistry. Long fermentation, the process that gives bread structure, digestibility, and flavor, is skipped entirely. Instead, enzymes, emulsifiers, and oxidizing agents force dough to behave like properly fermented bread, without ever being it. The result is soft, uniform, long-lasting, and nutritionally hollow. Ingredient lists reveal calcium propionate to delay mold, mono and diglycerides to stabilize texture, and added sugars to boost taste after processing stripped it away. This isn't about feeding families better, it's about shelf life and margin control. Even Tesco's finest ranges follow the same blueprint. Premium packaging, same industrial process underneath. The bread needs to survive distribution networks spanning the entire country, sitting in warehouses, traveling in trucks, waiting on shelves. Real bread can't do that. Real bread goes stale in 2 or 3 days. And that's exactly how you know it's real. Tesco's bread is engineered to just survive, not to nourish. And here's the thing. Under UK law, processing aids don't need to appear on labels. They're classified as substances that assist manufacturing, but supposedly don't remain in significant amounts. The manufacturer decides what counts as significant. You have no idea what you're actually eating. Number 7. Sainsbury's own brand. Sainsbury's has always positioned itself as slightly posher than Tesco, slightly more upmarket, with better quality, but when it comes to their own brand bread, it's the same industrial playbook dressed up in nicer packaging. The processing is identical. The Chorleywood rapid process, the emulsifiers, preservatives and dough conditioners, the engineered softness that lasts a week. Their taste the difference range might cost more and come in fancier bags, but the ingredient profile is barely different from their basic range. You're paying for branding, not better bread. Sainsbury's, like Tesco, relies on central bakeries producing hundreds of thousands of loaves daily. Speed and volume are the priorities. The bread has to travel long distances, sit in storage, and remain sellable for days after it arrives in store. That's why it's loaded with additives. That's why real fermentation doesn't happen. The Real Bread campaign formally accused 7 of the UK's 10 largest supermarkets in 2024 of misleading customers with this freshly baked illusion, and Sainsbury's was on that list. It's theatre. The smell of baking bread pumped through the store to trigger nostalgia and trust, while you're buying industrially produced loaves that were frozen for months. Number 6. Warburton's. I already know what some of you are thinking. Warburton's is a British classic. It's everywhere. It's what your mum bought. Exactly. And that's why this matters. Warburton's has a 34% market share in UK bread, more than any other brand. Pick up a standard Warburton's white loaf and read the ingredients. You'll see E472E, an emulsifier, just a code, right? Harmless. E472E is datum, a chemically engineered fat compound designed to force softness and speed up production. Research has linked emulsifiers to disrupted gut bacteria, the ecosystem that controls digestion, immunity, inflammation, and even mental health. When that balance is damaged, the effects ripple through your entire body. Many Warburton's loaves also contain flour treatment agents, including L-cysteine, an amino acid that can be derived from duck feathers or human hair. Yes, really. The bread you're feeding your family may include processed hair protein, but the real issue isn't one ingredient, it's the process. Warburton's relies heavily on the Chorleywood bread process, that industrial system from 1961 that allows bread to be made in under 3 hours instead of 12 to 16. It uses high-speed mixers, chemical improvers, and excess yeast to violently force dough into shape. This destroys the natural protein structure of wheat. Your digestive system then has to do the work that fermentation should have done. That bloated, heavy feeling after a sandwich, that's not normal. That's your body struggling with chemically accelerated bread. And here's the kicker. Someone left a few slices of Warburton's in their bread bin when they went on holiday for 2 weeks. When they came home, the bread showed no signs of deterioration, no mold, no staleness. Nothing. That can't be right. Real bread would have been covered in mold within days. This stuff sat there for 2 weeks untouched. Even the mold didn't want it. Number 5. Asda own brand. Asda doesn't hide its priorities. Everything begins and ends with price. And nowhere is that clearer than in Asda's bread aisle, where cost efficiency drives every decision behind the scenes. Most Asda breads are produced using the Chorleywood process, turning flour, water, yeast, and additives into finished loaves in minutes. Time is replaced with force, fermentation is replaced with volume. To keep loaves soft for days, Asda relies heavily on emulsifiers, preservatives, and dough conditioners. These additives prevent staling, improve appearance, and allow bread to travel long distances across the country. Many people experience bloating or discomfort after eating this bread without ever realizing why. Even Asda's brown and seeded loaves aren't much better. The color suggests fiber and wholesomeness, but much of it comes from caramel coloring and refined grains dressed up as something healthier. Number 4. Lidl Bakery Bread. Lidl's bread feels fresh when you pick it up. It smells fresh. It looks artisanal with rustic crusts and flour dusting. It isn't. Most of it is part-baked frozen, shipped across Europe, and finished in store. This is the freshly baked fraud that the Real Bread campaign has been calling out for years. In 2024, they formally accused 7 of the UK's 10 largest supermarkets of misleading customers with this exact practice, and Lidl was prominently mentioned. Preservatives used during the part baking and freezing process don't always appear clearly on labels because they're classified as processing aids. Ice crystals damage dough structure during freezing, which forces manufacturers to add gums, extra gluten, and emulsifiers to hold everything together when it's rebaked. The salt levels are extreme in many Lidl loaves. Sugar is added as dextrose to feed yeast faster and boost flavor. Texture is engineered through additives. Marketing does the rest. You see it coming out of the in-store oven, you smell it. You assume it was made fresh that morning. It wasn't. It was made weeks or months ago in a factory in Germany or Poland, frozen, shipped, and reheated. Freshly baked doesn't mean freshly made, it just means freshly reheated. Number 3. Stamford Street. Stamford Street is bottom-tier supermarket bread, and even the birds know it. People have reported trying to feed stale Stamford Street to birds in their gardens, and the birds refuse to eat it. Think about that. Wild birds, who'll eat insects, worms, and scraps off the pavement, took one look at this bread and flew away. The reviews online are brutal. 1 star after 1 star. People describe it as tasting plasticky, bland, like cardboard. It doesn't toast properly. It doesn't even smell like bread. The ingredient list is the usual industrial lineup: But somehow Stamford Street manages to be worse than the sum of its parts. It's bread that exists purely to be the cheapest option on the shelf, and it shows. If your food is so devoid of anything resembling nutrition or flavour that actual birds won't touch it, that should tell you everything you need to know. Stamford Street isn't food, it's filler. Number 2. Mother's Pride. This one stings because Mother's Pride used to mean something. In the 1970s and 80s, it was one of the best-selling breads in the UK. Dusty Springfield did the adverts. It was positioned as the bread mothers could trust for their families. The slogan was literally, "Mother's Pride, part of a loving family." That's powerful branding, and it worked. People trusted it. But look at what it's become. Mother's Pride started with 4 ingredients: flour, water, yeast, salt. Now it contains over 15. Soya flour, added not for nutrition, but to speed up rising and cut costs. E471 and E472E, emulsifiers that disrupt your gut microbiome. E282, calcium propionate, a preservative that's been linked to behavioral issues in children. A study found that 52% of children showed increased irritability, sleep disturbances, and inattention after consuming calcium propionate. The wheat used in Mother's Pride is processed using the Chorleywood method, stripped of its natural structure, then fortified with synthetic vitamins to replace what was destroyed. The bread is soft, uniform, lasts a week on the shelf, and bears almost no resemblance to what bread is supposed to be. This is the ultimate betrayal. A brand that built its reputation on trust and family values, now owned by Allied Bakeries, part of a massive conglomerate producing industrial foam with a nostalgic name slapped on the wrapper. It's certainly not good for you, and it represents everything wrong with modern industrial bread. Heritage sold out for profit margins. Number 1. Genius gluten-free. If you've got celiac disease or genuine gluten intolerance, you're a captive market, and Genius knows it. They're charging premium prices for what's essentially ultra-processed garbage with a gluten-free label slapped on it. Look at the ingredients list. 3 different sugar sources in one loaf: dextrose, sugar, and rice syrup. Then there's hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, a synthetic thickener used because without gluten, the bread falls apart. This isn't food. It's a science experiment designed to extract maximum profit from people who have no choice. Genius isn't solving your problem, they're exploiting it. So, if all of that's off the table, what can you actually buy? Let me walk you through the options that are still worth your money, starting with the most accessible and working up to the premium choices. First, M&S 4-ingredient loaf. Marks & Spencer produces a simple white or wholemeal loaf with just flour, water, yeast, and salt. No emulsifiers, no preservatives, no nonsense. The problem is availability. It sells out fast because people know it's one of the few clean options on the high street. If you can find it, grab it. But be aware that M&S, like Jason's, has started adding synthetic folic acid to some of their bread ahead of the government mandate. Check the label carefully. If folic acid is listed, and you're one of the 40% of people with the MTHFR gene variant who struggles to process synthetic folic acid, this won't work for you. But if you can tolerate it, and you can find it in stock, it's a solid choice. Second, Waitrose Duchy Organic Bread. Waitrose Duchy loaves are made under stricter organic standards that limit additives, processing aids, and pesticide exposure. That alone removes many of the hidden ingredients used to speed production or extend shelf life. The bread retains more of the grain's natural character, which means more fiber, slower digestion, and steadier energy release. It's more expensive than standard supermarket bread, but you're paying for actual food rather than engineered softness. Waitrose is also one of the few supermarkets that still stocks genuinely good bread in most locations. If you've got a Waitrose nearby, this is a reliable option. Third, Jason's sourdough. Jason's used to be the gold standard for accessible sourdough in UK supermarkets. It's widely stocked at Tesco, Asda and Sainsbury's, which makes it convenient. It's made using slow fermentation, not artificial souring agents or flavor tricks. That fermentation allows natural bacteria to break down complex carbohydrates and gluten structures before you eat the bread, which makes it easier to digest and dramatically reduces the sharp blood sugar spikes you get from fast-made bread. For many people, this is the first loaf they can eat regularly without feeling bloated or sluggish. The ingredient list is refreshingly short. No emulsifiers, no preservatives, no chemical improvers. The bread relies on time. However, there's a major issue now. Jason's has started adding synthetic folic acid ahead of the government mandate, and the backlash has been significant. People who've been loyal Jason's customers for years have stopped buying it because of this. If you're one of the 40% with the MTHFR gene mutation, synthetic folic acid can cause serious problems because your body can't process it properly. So if you buy Jason's, check the label carefully, and honestly, it's only really tolerable when toasted. Untoasted, many people find it dry and dense. It's still a better option than industrial bread, but it's no longer the perfect choice it used to be. Fourth, Jackson's Yorkshire Champion. This is proper regional bread from Yorkshire, made with Yorkshire wheat that's milled and baked locally. Jackson's invested £20 million into their bakery a few years ago, which shows commitment to quality. It's real sourdough. Available at Waitrose, Morrison's and Asda. The ingredient list is clean, the fermentation is genuine, and it tastes like actual bread. If you're in the north or can find it in your local Waitrose, this is an excellent option. The price sits around £2 to £3, which is reasonable for what you're getting. Fifth, Gale's Bakery Sourdough. Gale's is a high street bakery chain that's built its reputation on proper sourdough made with long fermentation. The ingredient list is minimal: flour, water, salt, and thyme. That's it. No additives, no artificial enhancers, no preservatives. The fermentation process is genuine, which means better digestibility, steadier energy, and less bloating. You'll feel fuller with less, and your energy remains steady rather than spiking and crashing. The downside is price and availability. Gale's locations are mostly in cities, and a loaf will cost you upwards of £4. But if you've got access to a Gale's, it's worth it. Sixth, Sainsbury's Ancient Grains Sourdough. This is one of the better supermarket options. It's made with ancient grains, genuine sourdough fermentation, and a cleaner ingredient list than most of what Sainsbury's sells. It's stocked in the bakery section, usually freshly baked in store or at least part baked and finished properly rather than frozen for months. The price is around £2.50 to £3, which is mid-range. If you're already shopping at Sainsbury's and want something better than their standard range, this is your option. Just make sure you're getting the ancient grain sourdough specifically, not their standard white or wholemeal. Seventh, Co-op own brand wholemeal. This is the budget lifeline. Co-op makes a basic wholemeal loaf that costs 75 pence and has a surprisingly short ingredient list compared to Tesco or Asda own brands. It's not artisan, it's not sourdough, but it's affordable, widely available, and doesn't have the worst of the industrial additives. For people who are struggling with the cost of living and can't afford £4 loaves, this is your best bet at a major supermarket. The Co-op has always positioned itself as the ethical option, and while they're not perfect, their basic wholemeal loaf is significantly better than the equivalent at Tesco or Asda. Eighth, Old English White from Tesco or Co-op. This is another budget option with fewer ingredients than most supermarket bread. No emulsifiers according to people who've checked the labels recently. It's not organic, it's not sourdough, but it's less processed than the standard ranges. If you're shopping at Tesco and can't afford the premium brands, look for Old English White. It's usually on the bottom shelf because they don't make as much profit on it. Ninth, Lidl Low GI Bread. Yes, I've just spent several minutes telling you to avoid Lidl's regular range, but their low GI bread is different. It's designed for people managing blood sugar, which means it uses whole grains and seeds that slow down digestion. The ingredient list isn't perfect, but it's significantly better than their standard loaves. Several people have mentioned this in comments as one of the few affordable options that doesn't destroy their digestion. It's around £1.50 to £2, and if you're shopping at Lidl anyway, it's worth trying. 10th, Aldi Dark Rye Sourdough. Similar situation to Lidl. Aldi's regular village bakery range is terrible, but their dark rye sourdough is surprisingly decent. It's a small loaf, lasts a couple of weeks if stored properly, and has a cleaner ingredient list than their white or brown bread. It's also cheap, usually under £2. Rye digests differently than wheat, which some people find easier on their stomachs. If you're shopping at Aldi and need bread, go for the dark rye, not the village bakery. 11th, Bertinet Bakery Sourdough. This is the premium option. Bertinet uses a 10-year levain starter and 16+ hours of fermentation. The ingredients are flour, water, salt and thyme, nothing else. It's available at Waitrose and Ocado, and it costs £3.50 to £3.95. That's expensive, but this is what real bread is supposed to be. Long fermentation breaks down gluten and starches before baking, which makes it easier to digest and gives you steady energy. People often notice less bloating, better gut comfort, and longer-lasting fullness. Meals slow down, portions shrink naturally. This bread quietly exposes a truth most supermarkets avoid. Bread doesn't need fixing, it just needs time. 12th, Biona Organic Bread. Biona is an organic brand you'll find in health food stores like Holland and Barrett, or in the organic aisle at Tesco. It's not as widely available as the others, but it's a solid transition bread for people moving away from ultra-processed loaves. No artificial preservatives, no unnecessary emulsifiers, no chemical dough conditioners. The recipes rely on organic flours, seeds, and straightforward methods your body can recognize and process. Some Biona loaves use natural fermentation or sprouted grains, which improve digestion and mineral absorption. Others use standard yeast fermentation, which is still cleaner than mainstream bread. The price sits around £2.50 to £3.50 depending on the variety. It's not the cheapest, but it's a good middle ground if you're trying to improve your diet without completely overhauling your shopping routine. Now let's be realistic. I know these options aren't cheap. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and I'm not going to pretend £4 loaves are accessible to everyone. If you're on a tight budget, here's what you can do. The Co-op 75p wholemeal loaf is your best supermarket option. Old English White at Tesco or Co-op is another. Little OGI and Aldi Dark Rye are both under £2 and significantly better than their standard ranges. But the absolute best solution, if you're watching money, is to make your own. You can pick up a bread maker at a charity shop for £10 to £20. Flour, water, salt, and yeast. That's it. Making your own bread works out to about £1 per loaf, and you control every single ingredient. You know exactly what's going in. No hidden emulsifiers, no preservatives, no processing aids that don't need to be listed. Just bread. It takes a bit of time to get used to the routine, but once you've got it down, it's simple. And if you're going to make your own, be careful with your flour. The government is mandating that synthetic folic acid be added to all flour, both white and wholemeal, despite originally promising it would only be in white. This affects up to 40% of the population who carry the MTHFR gene mutation and can't process synthetic folic acid properly. If this applies to you, look for imported flour from France or Poland. EU rules are different, and their flour isn't fortified the same way. You can find it at Polish stores or order it online. It's an extra step, but it's worth it if synthetic folic acid causes you problems. Here's 3 questions you can ask at any bakery anywhere in the country to figure out if their bread is worth buying. First, how long does your bread take to make? If they say under 8 hours, walk away. Real bread needs time. 12 to 16 hours minimum for proper fermentation. Anything less, and they're using shortcuts. Second, what's in it? If they start listing more than 5 ingredients, that's a red flag. Flour, water, salt, yeast, and maybe a seed or grain mix. That's all bread needs. If they're adding emulsifiers or preservatives, it's not real bread. Third, how long does it last? This sounds backwards, but you want bread that goes stale in 2 to 3 days. That's proof it's real. If they tell you it lasts a week or more, it's been engineered for shelf life, not nutrition. Real bread stales quickly, and that's a good thing. You can always freeze what you don't use and toast it later. If you want to find independent bakeries near you that make real bread, check out the Real Bread Campaign's map at sustainweb.org. They've mapped over 570 independent bakeries across the UK that make genuine sourdough and traditional bread without industrial shortcuts. It's a fantastic resource, especially if you're outside major cities and struggling to find decent options. And for those of you who need gluten-free bread, I'll be honest with you, most gluten-free bread is even worse than the industrial stuff we've been talking about. It's loaded with sugar, synthetic binders, and gums to hold it together because there's no gluten. The ingredient lists are horrific, and they charge you double for the privilege. Your best bet is making your own with quality gluten-free flour, or frankly, just accepting that bread might not be worth it. I'll cover gluten-free bread properly in a future video because it deserves its own investigation. It's not a conspiracy when it's happening right in front of you. Your grandmother was right. Your mum was right. They knew something was wrong with modern food, even if they couldn't articulate exactly what it was. We're being charged to destroy our own health, then charged again to treat the diseases that food caused. But when enough people know what's really going on, companies are forced to change. That's why this video matters. So if you haven't already, hit that like button now, leave a comment telling me which food I should investigate next. And subscribe, because I'm going to keep doing videos exactly like this, exposing what's really in our food and holding these corporations accountable. Until next time, read your labels, trust your instincts, and protect your plate.